if you're spending money on marketing, you need to have a system in place for speed to lead and to follow up on leads.
Think about the other ads that they're seeing and contrast. Hey, how's it going? It's Tim Brown, and this is the Hook Better Lead podcast. And today I've got Carson Nugent on of Nugent Media. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here. How about you?
Doing very good. Or should I say Carson Mamba Mentality Nugent?
Yeah, gotta live and die by the
Did you get rid of the
question.
mullet? Because you had a
I
mullet there
actually,
for a little while.
so I alternate between kind of like mullets and then just like straight, just aggressive buzz cuts, but we're starting to get a little bit of length back there.
Okay, no, that looks
So
good. See, I miss
yeah,
mine already. I got rid of mine, but I miss it.
I know you had a good one.
Let's talk about 5 roofing Facebook ad strategies that work. We're also going to tuck into this. It's basically Facebook ad strategies for 2024 and 2025. But we're also going to talk about this little case study, how you guys were able to do $715,000 off of a $15,000 Facebook ad spend for a roofing company, which is absolutely incredible. Carson, could you just give me like a 1-minute background on you and how you got into this nasty business of marketing?
Yeah, definitely. Everybody's favorite profession. So yeah, basically, had played football in high school, had a few offers to like some of the academy school stuff like that. Concussions, ended up going to ASU for a year, was studying finance, wasn't really happy there. Moved back to Atlanta, sold roofs for about 6 months there, 6 months back in Arizona, and then started kind of just doing some LinkedIn outreach, testing the waters, trying to kind of get something going in the marketing side. Got a few clients and then kind of pivoted for a few months between kind of like coaches, online offers, and the roofing side of things. But roofing was kind of what I enjoyed and thought I kind of had more of an edge in. And then probably about 3 years ago, so I've been doing almost exclusively Facebook ads for about 5 years now. And then, yeah, about 3 years ago, got connected with guys like you, some of the other B2B companies and kind of like events in the space. And then from there, kind of was able to quickly get a clientele of really great people, really great companies on both actual roofing or local roofing companies, B2C side, as well as some of the good and trusted like you and Hook Agency B2B companies in the space. And ever since then have been 100% locked in on just roofing, helping companies, and then helping them scale their budget, make more money predictably.
You love to hear it. And yes, I am grateful that Carson does our Facebook ads, and we appreciate the leads that you get us. So thank you for that. You're very good at it. And I've almost been thinking like Facebook ads have been getting better lately or something. It feels like they've been getting better. And I honestly I guess I'm curious before we get into these 5 strategies that work, like, why do you think I might be thinking that? Like, because I feel like we have more leads now from Facebook ads than we've ever had from your hard work. But what do you think the real reason is behind that for our brand?
Yeah, so I mean, for you guys, I would say the biggest thing is definitely just the brand awareness side of things. I mean, like once you have kind of like that reputation, it's like, I mean, however many 5-star Google reviews you guys have, it's like you're almost bulletproof when it comes to your SEO, your YouTube stuff, the content you put out, the team puts out, stuff like that. So, I mean, I would say whether it's a company or whether it's a company on the B2B side or local roofing company, I mean, really putting an emphasis on kind of like getting in front of people and doing that at a high level and making a good impression before hitting them with a more direct offer, and kind of just space or not putting all your eggs in one basket in terms of having kind of that presence in multiple
Mm.
ways. It just, I mean, whether it's a roofing company buying from you or me or a consumer buying from a roofing company, I mean, really it comes down to trust. What do they see when they look online? And it's like, what have they seen from that company before? So it's like, if we put
Mm.
ads in front of somebody or a company puts ads in front of somebody and they've already seen you 2 or 3 times, I mean, I know they say like 7 times is a typical mark, which I don't agree with completely, but it's like, I mean, if you're consistently in front of anybody, you're going to be top of mind when it comes to actually making that decision because there's always that low hanging fruit. And I notice this a lot from like Facebook posts and stuff. It's like there's always people watching, even if you're not really aware of who's watching. So it's just like that consistent effort towards kind of providing value to the market is just going to pay off tenfold when somebody's actually ready and kind of in that buying state of mind, I think.
Kind of reminds me of like what Joseph Hughes preaches all the time, right?
Yeah.
He's all that like the five ways, hitting people 5 ways because they may not buy off of seeing one Facebook ad. They might, but it's better when you have other stuff going on, right? And so, like for instance, this 715,000 off of a 15K spend. I know that's a big headline and kind of a crazy thing. How did that happen, man? Like, why? Like, do they have a good brand? What else is going on there?
So they actually, and that's a great question to start off the last question because yeah, they probably put the most effort into like video content, like just the amount of videos that are produced on like a weekly, monthly basis are pretty ridiculous. And I mean, they're in a more competitive market, and they actually probably have one of the higher lead costs out of one of my or
Mm,
out of clients, which is super interesting. But I think one thing to take home for everybody is like if you're spending money on marketing, you need to have a system in place for speed to lead and to follow up on leads. Because I've talked to people and it's like if even if it's leads that I'm generating, it's like if there's not a way to track those leads, get in front of those leads and like systematically kind of attract those leads back in your system. I mean, there's even ways to do it. Like if you were to I guess send out like a reactivation text. I mean, there's just so much in everybody's database that's kind of being missed. So this
mm.
company's great at the speed of lead, which I think is probably something that everybody talks about, but not a ton of people actually put like the time or money in to really make sure or even hold their like office accountable when it comes to it. Um, and I think the other thing is, especially for these companies that are offering like roofing, siding, gutters, it's like roofing is obviously that's all over Facebook, but there's also kind of like ways to get people into your system through like an offer on gutters or an offer on siding that can be upsold into kind of those bigger projects. So, I mean, I think a big thing is like if you're already paying X amount for a lead, it's like you have to figure out a way or at least have some kind of system in place to kind of like maximize that value based on the other services you offer because it's like if you can pay say $70 for a roofing lead, um, but then you can pay like $30 for a gutter lead that you can upsell into whatever amount, and gutter leads have better response rates or
Mm.
whatever like that. Just about kind of understanding where it's like just because you're the roofing is going to be like the big ticket, it's like you also have to kind of understand what's being shown in the market. It's like if you see all these roofing ads from other roofing companies, but you see no siding ads, and it's like you probably have a high likelihood of being able to cash in or at least get in front of homeowners that need roofing and siding, especially if you're in a store market where there's like,
So, yeah.
yeah.
So that's one of our top 5 roofing Facebook ad strategies that work is think about the other ads that they're seeing and contrast. So if they're only seeing roofing, you could hit them with gutters, and your cost of acquisition is going to be lower. Yeah, okay. So just wanted to note that this idea of like surveying the Facebook ads that are out there now, and there's ways to do that besides just scrolling your feed, right? There's like a Facebook ad library and stuff.
Yeah, so in the ad library, I mean, you can basically now they've actually made it a little bit better where you can even just search keywords. Um, but yeah, I mean, another thing I would note is, I mean, one thing I like to do is just screenshot every good ad that I see. But also, like one thing I always hear from roofing companies is it's like, oh, there's so many people running roofing ads in my market. But it's like you also like I guess the reason, even if there is a good amount of companies running, it's like if I were to look at fitness ads or whatever, then I would start getting fitness ads. So it's like if you're a roofing owner, you're going to get more roofing ads or related home service ads than probably like 99% of other people in the area, which is I think it makes you think there's probably a lot more competition in there is, but it also kind of gives you an advantage in terms of being able to see what other people are doing. Like if everybody's running the same offer, don't run that offer. If everybody's running like the same ad, because now it's like I don't want to get into another point, but just like especially with agencies or like the agencies that do like the pay per lead or whatever, where it's just so much cost focused. A lot of these companies that are kind of um I guess short version would be a lot of these ads are almost identical if you're scrolling on the feed. Like they all have the same copy, the same whatever. So it's like
Yeah. So you got to be different to cut through the noise. And you're saying both private equity and the flood of agencies, maybe Hormozy inspired sometimes or whatever's going
a
on.
lot.
There's a lot of these people that are doing very similar type stuff, or there's somebody selling a course out there, Facebook ads for home services or something like that, and they're saying go with this low number to get everyone excited, or they have another type of copy that gets played out. So these courses or something recommend copy, but then that copy doesn't work anymore, and that guy's too busy selling courses to change his curriculum.
And I would say real quick, and this may actually be maybe some of the better value or kind of secret that I would give or tell people, because I mean that copy, like the one that it's always ran like 6299 for a roof, 8299 for a new roof. It's like that stuff works if you know how to actually sell those people, because it's like you could run that in one market and a client will be like, these leads are amazing, like 6 or 7 are turning into appointments, like 2 or 3 are closing, and then somebody in another market's like, oh, these are all garbage, whatever. Um, so typically, what I do is like, because most people, I mean, everybody cares about cost, what that looks like, but I guess even with that being said, it's like I would say 90% of owners also definitely want their brand to be shown in like a positive way. And then there's probably that other 10% or so that only care about the numbers. So typically what I'll do like for something like retail is start, because regardless of what anybody says, especially on Facebook, your ad results are extremely market dependent, and in some markets it's just like you're going to have to go through a lot more testing, and I mean it's I don't want to get into it too much because it's just tech talk or whatever, but it's just
Give us a little bit of tech talk. The guy who's watched this far already wants a little bit
yeah.
of tech talk.
Yeah, so for example, it's like I had a client up in Indiana. It's like ridiculously high lead costs. It started super good, like leads were good. There was a few other bigger companies that came in after a storm. So it's like now you've got people who are basically, and this is what I see a lot when it comes to companies that are basically involved or have funding from private equity, is some of them will, I mean, basically break even. And I'm sure you see this on Google as well, where it's like some people will almost be fine with breaking even on one platform because they know it's going to kind of pay off or just give them enough market share. Um, so what I see on, I guess, the Facebook side of things, it's like, say lead forms don't work. It's like, I'll try messenger ads, because it's like messenger ads, it's like it can bring in junk, and it may take a little bit of time to get it actually dialed in. But it's like this company went from paying probably 100, or when the lead cost kind of got up, probably paying like 250 to 300 an appointment, and then when like the messenger ads got in there, it got down to like 100 to 120 mark. So it's just like different things work in different markets. So it's like typically my kind of chain of command, or what I'll do in order, is like the first thing will be lead forms where there's not really a true offer on it, and then it's kind of just all brand focus, kind of test out like the get a quote, get an estimate, maybe highlight like the financing, because you're not really giving anything away there. And then if that doesn't work, typically go to an offer. I mean, one of the offers that's always going to work well is like X amount off or X percentage off. And then from there, kind of test out the messaging ads. And then, I mean, at the end of the day, like the gimmicky ads, they do work. It's just, it's not sustainable. And typically, if you do want to go with that, I would suggest doing it from a generic page, probably not your actual company page, just because it's, if you're running, in my opinion, it kind of just screws up kind of your brand equity, and there's still a way to do it in like an honest and transparent way. It's just you probably don't want gimmicky ads right under your page name and kind of being known as that company that runs a bunch of ads that don't even sound like feasible.
Okay, let's get through a few more of our strategies that we have on our list. Talk to me about scaling budgets. What does this strategy really mean to you in 2024, 2025? How should people think about this? Are there people that start with you with a few $1,000s and then crank it up to 20,000, or how do you do this?
Join the future of roofing at offers.roofle.com. Stand out, save time, earn more.
Yeah, so my main thing, and I'm sure this is different from Google in a way, but I mean with Facebook, I typically see, I guess, quicker data and kind of quicker results. And in my opinion, there's never really a true reason to scale something that's not working unless you've kind of already done it with like in-house with another ad manager, kind of successfully spent at the level that you want to be at. So, I mean, typically what I would suggest is, if possible, I mean, starting with around $100 a day in budget, because I mean, the other part of this is, I mean, basically, you need your numbers dialed in before you start scaling. So it's like there's no point in saying, I just want to spend $500 out the gate, because you don't know how many appointments that's going to yield, how many leads that's going to yield, like whatever. So I typically suggest 100 a day to start, because that's going to get, or at least it should get, if it's a good ad, should get plenty of data and kind of let you, because typically there's typically there's at least like one bottleneck, whether it's a small bottleneck or a big bottleneck, because it'll either be like maybe a company's getting a high lead cost, maybe somebody has a low contact rate, maybe somebody has people that are coming in from out of area. So I mean, typically there's normally at least like one thing that kind of needs to be fixed in that initial phase. So I mean, I suggest kind of that $100 a day mark, kind of lock in all your metrics, like get everybody on the same page, figure out if there's anything that is basically off, or looks off or doesn't kind of add up, get that fixed, and then you can kind of start scaling from there. Because as long as you have a decent market size, I mean, typically you won't have too much of an issue going from $100 to $500 a day, for example. I, I mean, if you weren't super familiar with what you were doing and you just went in there and said, I'm going to change this number from 100 to 500, it probably wouldn't go well. But I mean, in terms of, I guess, audience size, I mean, most markets are going to have plenty of audience to go from that $100 to $500 a day mark. And the biggest thing to actually scaling that is going to be like the campaign structure, but ultimately the creative side of things, and just making sure that
So
stuff.
do you help? Does your agency help with the creative? I know that sometimes I'm a little bit more involved on ours than probably your normal client. Do you help write these ads and create the images for them if they're not like,
Yeah, so I mean, short answer would be essentially everything start to finish, from like setting up the account, the automations. But yeah, depending on whether it's retail heavy, storm heavy. I mean, I typically have kind of a few different templates on each, that'll kind of like that are, I guess, kind of like my most proven assets that I'll start them out with. So yeah, I'll get like company images, or kind of send them like a folder, like basically see what they already have, and a few images that work really well before and after. One image I would say that's almost like a hack to use, because like I don't know why, but this image works like crazy, or these types of images work like crazy. It's either a company truck in front of like a build, or like a company photo, like whether it's like two or three guys on the crew, like a sales guy and the owner, just like in uniform in front of a truck, in front of an office or something, like, or in front of a build or something like that. But I mean, the trucks in front of truck, I guess, truck photos and team photos seem to work extremely well. But yeah, I mean, I basically have, um, get any photos edited, videos edited, and then kind of have a folder as well of like video examples, scripts, and get those edited. So everything creative wise, and a lot of these creatives can also be repurposed in different ways too. So I know owners will be like, well, we don't really have a ton right now. And it's like a lot of stuff you could literally get on a phone for 30 seconds and have better content than probably 80-90% of the other people advertising in your market.
If you truly believe in what you're doing and you want to be the best version of yourself and you want to build a great organization, there's no other place to do that besides the Roofing Academy.
So let's run through these other three real quick. We got brand and building an audience, which it sounds like you've already been talking about a little bit. But obviously, we talked about how Hook. Big thing is that audience. There's audience there. So if you didn't necessarily have brand as much, but brand is part of it, but you can build audience with Facebook ads, right? Like you can do brand awareness ones and then market off of people that watched those videos or looked or engaged with those ads, right? Or how else would you build audience to market to that is a little warmer?
So to be honest, and the thing, and this is actually probably one of the Facebook changes I've seen, at least for most roofing companies, I've not seen. I mean, retargeting may be produce like a little bit of a better quality lead, but I've also seen retargeting campaigns get more expensive, and even some of the other advertisers that I talk to and stuff don't really do a ton of retargeting just because Facebook's made it more expensive to target like a small group of people. So I mean, typically what I would suggest is, I mean, more instead of, because really you could go on, and I think that's kind of the cool thing about Facebook is you can go on there and go from, I mean, I you hear owners that have done this or whatever, but I mean, you could go on there and I mean, if you have the right stuff in place, basically go from unknown to super well known in a short amount of time, just like you could on Google or with SEO or whatever. So I mean, I would say there's not necessarily a huge need for an audience to start, but if you don't have a huge audience or a huge brand recognition, then you probably need to lean more on an offer and kind of be willing to give
Okay.
away more to start, because it's like if you get, even if you're not making huge profits on these jobs, then you're still going to be in neighborhoods that have other houses. So it's like if you don't have a lot of brand or awareness yet, you may have to kind of focus on just getting it, like into neighborhoods and kind of,
Customers.
yeah,
You got to get
yeah,
customers because then customers, you can market that, right? The fact that you have jobs, the fact that you have testimonials in their area or whatever.
and the,
Like I thought of it the same way as we moved into HVAC because now we're getting to 10 customers in HVAC, but I made concessions to some of those clients, you know, like either accepting lower deals, like for instance, some cheaper stuff that we wouldn't normally do. We did because we needed to have customers. The
yeah,
first thing is to have customers. And I think people know that when they started their business, they did some things like you might call it a like Target selling the TV at Black Friday for $200 when it's normally $300. It gets people in the door. And what do they call that? They call that a loss leader. A loss leader. So sometimes you got to think about things that way. Like I need customers in this area, so I'm going to get some customers in this area, and then we can branch out from there. That's a lot of really successful roofing companies will just they'll get in there with marketing and then they'll own the neighborhood and the area with door knocking. So you get in there and then you own it.
and yeah, and the one last
Yeah.
thing I would say on that too is like, especially for these companies up north, they can't really do as much active jobs like during the winter, kind of when the weather gets like that. I mean, when it comes to the brand awareness side of things, the thing that I like or I think like doesn't have necessarily like a huge measurable value, but I mean almost like educational videos. Like if you know that like when snow happens that a bunch of people are getting leaks in certain areas or certain neighborhoods. I mean basically just making like short videos, and when it's not a good time to spend a bunch of money on like lead generation on Facebook, basically kind of just be rotating through kind of like educational videos or stuff that you know those homeowners are actually dealing with, are going to see come like 2 to 3 months from now when you're back doing a bunch of jobs, trying to push leads and stuff like that. So almost like a maintenance phase, just in terms of like, because everybody's going to shut down their ad spend when nobody can do jobs. So I think that's kind of a good thing too, is just putting out kind of like if you're fixing a problem or doing an inspection, see a common issue, kind of just like a quick video on that, and then running it for a few dollars a day, because it's going to get in front of, I mean, you can get like 15-second video views on videos for like 1 to 2 cents.
All right, we got really nailing down your cost of acquisition. Talk to me about that. Why is cost of acquisition important? And then how can that help them be more successful with their ads?
So yeah, I would say, I mean, the cost of acquisition is obviously important from the just their business side, but I think especially when it comes to the marketing side of things, because there's so many people who, I won't say there's so many people, but a lot of owners, whether it's talking to other agencies, other people, a friend or another friend that's an owner in a different state, it's like all they hear is like numbers. So it's like they want like $50 leads, $40 leads, and they're so focused on like that number that it's just there's no, I guess there's not a way to predict data in different markets if you haven't actually ran anything yet. So, I mean, I think the most important part is basically determining what you're willing to pay for a customer, whether it's just to make a little bit of money or kind of like get in an area. And basically, just like based on your average job size, average profit margins, kind of like what that maximum cost per acquisition can be. Just, I mean, I think the one of the most important things with kind of like sustainability and scalability is starting with kind of proper and just like client management, or dealing with whether you hire somebody like me or you or different agency or just in general, is kind of that makes the communication better and just the progress better if kind of that communication and expectations are there. So I mean, it's tough to say we're doing good or we're doing bad if you don't know, or you haven't kind of laid out the numbers of like, this is what's good for us, like whatever, because some markets are going to have better cost per lead, but a lower appointment rate and a lower set rate, or a lower appointment rate and a lower close rate, and like kind of like vice versa. So it's like, instead of just looking at like cost per lead, I typically suggest looking at like actual cost per appointment, and then kind of what's that cost per acquisition from there. Just because I mean that number is going to be a little bit different for everybody, and it's like, but it needs to be realistic to start, yeah, especially starting out. So
Let's talk about the recent Facebook changes. If you're getting people that are out of your service area or they're unqualified, how can you navigate that? What's a strategy to help navigate these unqualified or out of service area Facebook changes?
So yeah, I would say really the biggest thing, especially, and I typically run lead forms, and I think that's kind of the best with Facebook's platform right now. But I mean, one thing that's been a major change and that I've seen, especially these last several months, has been people coming in from way out of area, like 2 to 3 hours out of area. I mean, one way that you can solve that while kind of keeping the lead cost the same is Facebook lead forms basically have a question that, or an option now called conditional logic, where if they put no, they're not even going to be counted as a lead and not come into your system. So typically what I'll do is add that question there and be like, say if it's an, say you're in Minneapolis and you have a 30-mile service radius, basically something like, you could add like, are you a homeowner, if you're trying to, but I wouldn't really suggest that starting out. I mean, the biggest thing I would do is just put, are you a homeowner within 30 miles of Minneapolis, which is basically your service area. Because I mean, once you get 10 of those leads that say yes, I mean, Facebook has like 52,000, or they used to supposedly have, but they probably still do, 52,000 data points on each user. So it's like, right once you, the best targeting is through the messaging and through the data that you give Facebook. So when Facebook sees yes, they try to find people like that.
Awesome. Thank you for all that. I apologize. I've got to wrap it up here. I want to say, why do you think that people can't get enough of Carson? Because we got like 2,500 views on our last video, and that's way above average for our channel. So, what do you think that? Why do the people need roofing Facebook ads advice from Carson, and where can they go to get more?
Well, I think they hire me for my my smile and humor mainly, but yeah, I mean, I would say that my big focus has always been on kind of delivering that experience, or kind of that like almost like a hybrid of having somebody in office but actually like specializes in that field, just in terms of the communication and kind of like the proactiveness, getting feedback, whatever. So really try to get in there and kind of be more of like a partner for a business than just like a third party that's getting paid and trying to bring in leads. um, and I know that's kind of been the big feedback or positive point from a lot of clients as well. And then in terms of getting a hold of me or Nugent Media, our site, or it's getting worked on at the moment, but it'll probably be back up by the time this goes live. So nugentmedia.net. Facebook's a platform that I'm the most active on. Carson Nugent, just my regular name. And then, yeah, and that's also where you can see kind of some case studies, post, whatever. And then, yeah, the other thing would be email carson@nugentmedia.net.
Awesome, and that's been my experience as well. I appreciate that you collaborate with us. You make it very easy to communicate with you, and that you get us a lot of leads. So thank you for all of that. Thank you for everything that you do for us, and thank you to those who are watching for bearing with us as we talk kind of fast about Facebook ads. Please, we know this is just a taste of what Carson's got back there in his arsenal of tricks. So please reach out to him. If people reach out to the folks that are on this podcast, it makes this all the more useful for us, and for you guys, because then I can get better and better guests on here, because people are getting business off of this, and we get people that get business off of this, and it's really cool. So I appreciate all of you for doing business with the guests, and grateful to just be talking about this. Thank you everyone for joining. Podcast is put on by hookagency.com, Hook Agency all over social media, and see you next time.